President Trump's promise to deport people by any available means took an ominous turn last weekend. That's when the administration invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. This act allows the government to deport non-citizens without due process.
Hundreds of migrants and alleged members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua were rounded up Saturday, shackled and thrown on planes bound for El Salvador.
Critics have balked at Trump's application of the law, saying it should be used only in times of declared war. It was intended as a law to apprehend and remove foreign nationals from nations that were indeed at war with the United States.
The United States has previously invoked the Alien Enemies Act 3 times, once during the 1812 War, World War I, and then in World War II when Japanese citizens were placed in internment camps.
Meanwhile, Judge James Boasberg tried to block the flights, but the administration says his order came too late. At least 2 of the 3 planes carrying deportees were already in the air.
Boasberg's order sparked a debate over the legality of Trump's action and judicial overreach. Joining us now to get to the bottom of whether Trump has legal standing to invoke the Alien Enemies Act is Theodore Wold, a senior fellow at Claremont Institute and former deputy assistant to President Trump. Theo, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with Trump's invocation of the order. He has said that rather than invoking it because we are in a time of war, he's used the clause regarding an invasion, referring to the overtaking of the southern border by illegal aliens as an invasion, and as well as Venezuela's alleged direction of Tren de Aragua to enter the United States. So let's start from there in terms of the legal authority Trump has to actually invoke this law and use it to deport alleged members of the gang.
Yeah, so first off, this is a long-standing statute, which, contrary to a lot of the legal leftist commentary on this, it makes it more legitimate, not less. It's been on the books now for close to 2 centuries. Number 2, this power, Congress gives this power exclusively to the president in these instances. The phrase that's important here are predatory incursions into U.S. territory. So again, unlike most of the leftist legal commentary that has sort of surrounded the invocation of this act, it does not require a declaration of war. That's not a requirement under the terms of the statute itself. But as you noted, it's really important to sort of see the choreography of what the White House has done here. First, they declared the invasion on the southern border. And then second, consistent with the terms of the text of the statute itself, the president then invoked the act, gave the declaration, and that's all that's required under the statute itself. The president has to identify the predatory incursion or the threat, the governmental threat to the safety and security of the American people. And then secondly, he has to notify Congress that he's issuing the authority under the act itself. All of that has been satisfied. And unfortunately, for a number of legal commentators who want to sort of graft onto the statute all kinds of other requirements, none of that is actually in the text of the statute itself.
So is your position that the government of Venezuela is invading the United States?
So look, this is an interesting set of facts, right? Number 1, you have essentially a failed state in Venezuela itself. And 2, the Tren de Aragua, look, when you go back through the history of the gang in Venezuela, was able to take over whole sections or regions of Venezuela, of Venezuelan territory, including Venezuelan governmental facilities, a maximum security prison in the north of Venezuela to start back in 2013. So the one thing I'll offer to your viewers, now think about it this way. When this act was originally enacted by Congress back in the 18th century, it was a sort of standard practice of international law that pirates operating on the high seas could be captured and then summarily executed because pirates were an extra-legal, extrajudicial threat to the ordering of commerce and also to good governance and the protection of innocent maritime vessels, innocent citizens traveling abroad. There's no notion really of criminal international transnational gangs at that time. But if you had to draw an analogy, gangs are essentially, they operate very similarly to pirates. They're an extrajudicial, extra-legal, extra sort of sovereign threat, both in Venezuela and in the United States. So is it a direct sort of threat to Venezuela? Is it about the Venezuelan government? I think there's an analogy here to draw that Tren de Aragua essentially operates as a sovereign state, similar to pirates did in the 18th century.
So, Theo, the reason that I'm asking this is your earlier explanation to Amber. And I love a good debate about the text of a particular statute, because you said, well, look, the left is saying it's all about a declaration of war, when in fact it's about a predatory invasion. But in both those cases in the text of the statute, it is when there is a declared war between the United States and any foreign nation or government, or if there's a predatory incursion, which is the example you cited, against the territory of the United States by any foreign nation or government. Now, to say Tren de Aragua are kind of like pirates, and then that qualifies them to be effectively a foreign nation or government, that seems a stretch to me, whether one is of the left or otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's an operative analogy, but the real point here on whether or not they constitute a foreign nation or a foreign government, we still don't know, not with any certainty, and not sort of in just general civil discourse. This may be available to people on the high side in sort of classified instances. We don't know if Tren de Agua's presence in the United States has been sponsored or has been encouraged by the Maduro regime in Venezuela. So I don't think it's as neat as you'd like to have it, Niall, which is that there's some kind of neat and sort of hermetically sealed distinction between the government of Venezuela and Tren de Agua, or whether or not Tren de Agua has the capacity, sort of analogously, in terms of its capabilities, in terms of its ability to coerce and to conduct violence against innocent citizens, and its ability to move economically across borders, whether or not it's analogously similar to a government, a sovereign government, as we would understand it traditionally in the law.
Well, let me ask the question from a different direction then. If the position is that a quasi-government representing Venezuela in some slightly abstract or nebulous sense is invading the United States, doesn't that then behove the United States to do more? I mean, if we're saying Venezuela's invading, we should presumably attack Venezuela or something, no?
I think the designations have operated really neatly here, which is the president declared an invasion of the southern border. The president then designated Tren de Agua and similarly situated international cartels, transnational organizations as terroristic threats, and then third, invoked the act here, the Alien and Enemy Act, and then has moved to use those authorities expeditiously to remove those threats from the United States. All of that is entirely consistent, both with this specific statute and also the requirements that law imposes on the president to declare these threats as direct threats on American soil. And I don't think anyone is under the misapprehension that Tren de Agua is president in the United States and has conducted violence against American citizens.
One of the other complaints about Trump's invocation of this statute is the supposed lack of due process that the individuals received. There's been allegations from family members, and there's been articles in the media of people claiming that they're not actually a member of the gang. Now, I don't put a ton of stock in that because, surprise, surprise, criminals lie and gang members lie. But the criticism then goes, okay, they get on a plane and they go to El Salvador, where they then have to go through the appeals process in immigration courts from foreign soil. What is your position on the law's revocation of due process and whether or not people should be concerned about that?
So two things here are really important. Number one, the law doesn't require any due process. That's because the president is given this extraordinary and special power to move expeditiously to remove known national security threats to the American people from our soil. That's how the law was written, and that's how the law has been understood in those various applications that you gave earlier, including most recently in World War II. Secondly, look, this is an unfortunate fact for a lot of folks who want to extend the full panoply of criminal appellate rights to individuals who are present here in the United States illegally. But it's simply just the case that if you're here illegally, you're running the risk that you could be apprehended and removed under the authorities granted to the president under this law. And as such, then look like you're going to be you're going to be in a difficult position to avail yourself of the appellate proceedings in the United States. That's the risk that an illegal alien makes when they enter the country without legal sanction. The second thing I'll note is, look, a lot has been made about these tattoos. I know a lot of friends of mine will ask what happened to me if I've lost my mind. But look, consular officers at the State Department should be given some discretion, some confidence in their ability to perform their job. These individuals are go through a process when they're seeking asylum, and often that requires medical examination under the law. In the course of a medical examination, consular affairs officers note, they take designations of tattoos, body markings, piercings. So now in the 11th hour for liberal asylum lawyers to say, hey, this tattoo here is representative of my client's affection for Real Madrid. It's not a Tren de Agua tattoo. Here's the news: like, consular affairs officers detail these things. It's not unknown to the United States government what these tattoos are and what their significance is. So look, this is just kind of a story about nothing.
All right, Theo, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, up next, a Fox journalist sticks up for one of their own. We'll fill you in next on Rising.